Little intro to part 30. I'm going to go into some details about a switch gauge pod that I need to make to mount switches and gauges into the cab of the truck. Now, some of you guys might think that I go into too much detail, but I want it to serve as kind of a learning experience for you. I could sugarcoat this whole thing and make this whole truck build video in probably 4, 5, 6 segments and show you the truck coming in here, show you the truck with the engine in it, show you the truck with the cab back on it, show you the truck finished. But it really doesn't serve the purpose that I'm trying to get across. I kind of wanted to show you guys some of the complex problems that you run into and how I resolved them. Not that maybe you will ever do something similar to this, but it can be used as a learning experience to say, well, you know, I watched a guy on YouTube one time and he kind of ran into a similar situation and, you know, maybe we could do this instead of that. But anyways, here's a video. It's about, again, about the switches and gauges in the truck. One of the things that I'm doing while I'm in this rehabilitation phase, let's call it, where I'm not supposed to be lifting anything. If you don't know what I'm talking about here, rehabilitation or recovery, go back and see my shop update of 9/28 and I'll explain about my appendix. I came into the shop on a Sunday because I was bored stupid. And what I did is took a notebook and tried to lay out the gauges on a piece of paper. And I've got it tilted up and it's tilted to the side because it's sitting on something, but I've got it tilted up like that because if I put it down flat, it would be blown out by the light, reflecting off the white paper. But anyways, what I'm doing is trying to get a gauge, no pun intended, of the size of the console that's going to stick out from the dash to hold the gauges. Plus, keep in mind that I've got to get a bunch of switches underneath or beside or someplace along in here to control other functions, electrical functions that aren't provided in switches on the dashboard. And there is very limited space on the dashboard. Now, very limited space on the dashboard around the driver's, let's call it console. Around the driver's seat, there's very limited space on the dashboard. Now, you know, people would say, well, you can take out the glove compartment, but I can't really do that because, not that I can't take the glove compartment out, I can't really do that because reaching across the truck to the glove compartment area of the truck on the passenger side would be extremely inconvenient. I'm not sure if, depending on how the thing gets laid out in the seat configuration, the shifter configuration, and everything else, it might even be impossible to reach over there. Let alone be able to read gauges from over there. But anyways, I just kind of wanted to give you a little update, kind of tell you what I was doing, and kind of throw out there, you know, the idea of laying it out to try and come up with some kind of size requirement for that console that's going to be able to be stuck out from the dashboard but be supported off of the dash assembly. There's no way I'm going to be able to support this off of the floor because, well, I mean, I could support it off the floor, but that center panel Where this thing is going to be is a removable panel to get down to the transmission. So again, I'm just throwing it out there, letting you guys know what I'm doing and my thought process behind this. These are 2 pieces of 1/4-inch underlayment. What I've done is laid out circles on the one where gauges, which will represent where gauges will go. And there's rectangles on the other one, which lay out where switches will go. Now, the gauges are sized for the outside diameter of the gauge itself. It's a 2 1/16 inch gauge that we're looking at to put into this console. But this outside diameter is actually 2 1/4, allowing for the outside diameter of the bezel ring. The switches, this thing is laid out in a series of, it's an insert that goes into a panel or goes into your dashboard. In this case, a panel, and it will, each one of these things will house 6 switches. So what I'm going to do, I'm kind of planning on like bookending it a little bit in the truck. So maybe the switches will be straight and the gauges will be at a little bit of an angle facing the driver so that they would be easier to see. What I'll do is I'm going to go over and I'm not sure if I can actually get into the cab yet with my stomach issue, but that's what I kind of plan on doing, is putting it over there, kind of holding this up, you know, in the cab and seeing what it looks like in different positions, whether it should be not only bookend a little bit, but maybe tilted up a little bit too, because it will probably be lower than this seat, but I'm not really sure of that yet until I get it over there. Okay, we're back here inside the truck, and what I did is I just came in here with that template that I made for the gauges and the switches. One of the issues that I have is that you know, I would like to be able to get the thing down low. It would be nice if I could get it down like this. But do you see what the issue could be? Is the issue with the it would actually have to be lower. The issue with the where the shifter is going to come up out of the floor in relationship to the transmission. I guarantee you, if I put it like that, it's going to be in the way of the shifter. Again, this is kind of all wasted space. You know, this is where probably the radio originally was going. They've got some gauges in there and some light switches and stuff like that. An ashtray, actually a vehicle with an ashtray. Still got cigarette butts in it too. I don't think I'd ever opened that before. Anyways, let me hold that back up again and I'll bring you right back. Some of you might be looking at that layout of the gauges and switches and saying, that's an awful lot of switches and gauges, but let me just tell you, it's not really. In another video, I discussed about installing some gauges into the dashboard panel in place of the gauges that were originally equipped in the thing, which were kind of idiot style gauges. Didn't really give you pressures, just set high, low, etc. Charge, discharge. If I can get them in there, that will eliminate probably 4 gauges off of it. But as far as switches go, I'm not really going in excess. I mean, as you can see, there's 4 banks of, or you could see, there was 4 banks of 6 switches, which is 24 switches. Now, I might be able to eliminate 1 bank of it depending on what it is, but I'm not really going overboard. There's a lot of things that I have to provide as far as electrical switches go that is not provided in the original truck. Now, I'm going to run like the wipers and everything off of the original switch that was in the truck. I'm going to run the lights off of the original switch that was in the truck. But there's other things that I need. Like, for example, the windshield washers in the original truck were a pump ball type of thing. You stepped on a pump ball that was mounted on the floor, and it pressurized or squirted the fluid out of it via the pump ball. And I'm going to eliminate that. So I've got to like have a switch for windshield washer motor, because logically the new windshield washer is going to be electrically driven. There's got to be a switch to inflate or deflate the well, let's call it inflate, if I have to, the airbag suspension for the front and rear axle. There's 2 fans that are going to be installed in front of the existing radiator, and I'm going to need a switch for both of them, so I can run it with no fan, 1 fan, or 2 fans. Fuel pump switch. I'm right now thinking about putting a water to air intercooler for the thing, so there probably is going to have to be an auxiliary water pump on it. Backup lights, I want to switch to turn the backup lights off on the truck, because sometimes when you're doing a gooseneck trailer and at nighttime, you backing up, the backup lights reflect off the front of the trailer from the truck, and it's kind of annoying and distracting, actually, more than annoying. It's really distracting. A switch for like a dome lights. Now, I'm going to leave the original dome light fed off of the light switch like it is now, but I want to put a couple of extra lights in there, kind of like map lights, so that I can have more light in it. So you may think that I've got a lot of gauges and switches, but I really don't. Now, some of them might be able to be relocated, some of the gauges might be able to be relocated, and that console area shrunk down a little bit, but I'm not really sure if that's going to happen. Okay, we're back. What I wanted to do is get that thing bolted back in place again so that it wasn't obstructing the view of what the issue is going to be. I probably could put this thing like this in some shape and form, and it probably would be less likely to interfere with the shifter, less likely to interfere with encroaching on the passenger side compartment. The only issue with it, and it would be all dead space underneath the thing, ashtray, where the radio used to be, the only issue is the heater controls. That's where the heater controls are, and that's something that I need access to. So I'm at this point in time, I'm at the point right now where what I want to do is, before I take this too far, start making a design for it, and maybe even getting material for it. what I need to do is get the cab back over to the truck and set the cab back down and kind of figure out what the relationship to everything is in the truck, where the shifter is going to fall exactly in that opening and how it comes up. Now, the shifter can be curved. I mean, I could take that shift lever and bend it to make it maybe like a little S curve around something, or something like that. But so that's an option. But I'm kind of blindsided or shooting in the dark here until I actually get the cab back onto the frame and see what all of the relationships are. So I guess that's probably my next goal. I've got to finish up them brackets for the rear transmission, and I want to get that mounted in there so that it's in place with all of the engine and transmission mounting brackets in place. And then what I'm going to do is shoot for picking this cab back up again and setting it back over on the truck to find, and so that I can get a good judge of all of the relationships. The doghouse, if I'm going to have to open that up and cut that out more because of the engine, where the engine sits, and mainly the shifter, what the relationship and how far back in this opening the shifter sits. So that way I will know exactly how much room that I have to work with and where. But I'll bring you back.